I see. Appears to me that a document of this importance might be kind of disrupting to the entire Ewing family.
Before prestige dramas turned cliffhangers into marketing events, a Texas oil family did it first, and bigger. Dallas wasn't just a TV show, it was a weekly ritual that stitched together Friday nights, water cooler Mondays, and an entire era of network TV strategy. This is the series that made a mustache-twirling villain into a cultural icon, and somehow convinced America to accept that an entire season just didn't happen. Whether you remember it as appointment television or discovered it later, Dallas reshaped how TV thought about stakes, scandal, and scale. You're about to hear the weird, wonderful, they really did that? Stories behind the Ewings, how a modest miniseries metastasized into a phenomenon, how a ranch became a tourist trap, and how a shower scene reprogrammed television logic. If you love TV history and you want more deep dive old school TV rabbit holes, tap, like, and subscribe. It tells the algorithm you're here for the good stuff and helps this channel keep the nostalgia rolling. Alright, pour yourself something strong, polish those cufflinks, and let's ride out to Southfork. 15. The miniseries that became a juggernaut. Here's the first curveball. Dallas wasn't built to run for years. It launched in spring 1978 as a 5-episode miniseries, essentially a test balloon. The idea was to dip a toe into nighttime soap without betting the ranch. Then, the ratings didn't just hold, they spiked. Viewers locked into the Ewings' love triangles, boardroom betrayals, and that slick, swaggering Dallas energy. CBS moved quickly, recognizing they'd stumbled on a unique cocktail, oil boom glam with Shakespearean family stakes. The show slid into Friday nights, which typically spelled doom, but Dallas didn't care about traditional logic. Its serialized structure trained audiences to make appointments, not just flip channels. That miniseries DNA, tight pacing, clear character stakes, and arcs with payoff stayed in the bloodstream even as the show expanded. It's a reminder that sometimes TV's biggest wins start as small bets, the kind the network hopes will do pretty well, until suddenly the phones light up, advertisers crowd in, and you're building sets for seasons, not weeks. Dallas broke the pilot mold by proving a miniseries could be a proof of concept and a launching pad. 14. Southfork is real, but the interiors weren't. Yes, Southfork exists. Those sweeping drives, fences, and sun-baked vistas, that's a real North Texas property used for exteriors. But once the camera stepped inside, you were in Los Angeles. Sound stages with precision-built rooms designed for lighting, blocking, and microphones. The real house wasn't big enough to hold an entire crew, and its layout didn't match what directors needed for complex soap choreography. Here's where it gets weirder. After Dallas turned the ranch into a postcard, people wanted to visit the Ewings like it was Graceland. The owners leaned in, and Southfork transformed into a tourist destination, complete with tours, events, and wedding bookings. Fans could take photos at the famous driveway, buy branded souvenirs, and briefly inhabit the fantasy of old money and new oil. The split reality, Texas outside, Hollywood inside, helped Dallas feel both authentic and cinematic. That tension is part of the magic trick. A tangible place you can drive to, selling a dream that only exists on a soundstage. It's the perfect metaphor for TV itself. Real enough to touch, unreal enough to keep you watching. 13. Who Shot JR went totally global. The Season 3 cliffhanger didn't just grab ratings. It detonated across the culture. Newspapers ran odds like it was the Kentucky Derby. Office pools popped up. Even politicians cracked jokes about it. When the Whodunit episode finally aired, it became one of the most watched broadcasts in television history. Studios were stunned to see what a single question, who pulled the trigger on a villain everybody loved to hate, could do to viewer behavior. The genius wasn't just the mystery. It was the timing, the suspect list, and the way JR functioned as the show's gravitational center. Killing him would break the sun. Sparing him would unleash even more scheming. Audiences felt like stockholders in the Ewing empire, personally invested in the outcome. After this, every show chased the cliffhanger high. Season finales with dangling cars, secret babies, bomb wires counting down. Dallas proved suspense could be serialized at scale, not just in miniseries or specials. And it showcased Larry Hagman's alchemy. He made viewers root for the shark, then tune in to see if he'd finally get bit. 12. The Dream Season Reset. Only Dallas could take the most confusing soap opera twist and make it a pop culture landmark. After Bobby Ewing's on-screen death and a season of stories that didn't quite gel, the show hit the reset button with a shower scene. Bobby alive, smiling as if nothing had happened. The message was outrageous and simple. Last season, dream. Erased. Was it elegant? Not exactly. Was it unforgettable? Absolutely. The move acknowledged how central Bobby was to the show's emotional architecture. Especially as a moral counterweight to JR, it also demonstrated a larger truth about serial television. Continuity matters, but chemistry matters more. If the recipe doesn't taste right, you rebalance the ingredients, even if it means rewriting reality. Fans groaned and laughed, and then kept watching because the Bobby-Pam dynamic worked. The Dream Season became shorthand for a narrative mulligan, a precedent other shows would invoke as both cautionary tale and emergency lever. Dallas took a storytelling risk that only a ratings giant could survive, and somehow turned a punchline into a ratings rebound. 11. Miss Ellie was recast, then unrecast. Barbara Bel Geddes' Miss Ellie is the heart of Southfork, steel under a soft drawl. When health issues took Bel Geddes out, the role passed to Donna Reed, a Hollywood legend in her own right. On paper, it made sense. Keep Miss Ellie in the story while honoring the character's gravitas. In practice, audiences never fully adjusted. Reed's take was respectable, but Bel Geddes had woven Miss Ellie into the show's fabric. Her presence anchored the chaos. Then came one of TV's rare reversals. Bel Geddes returned. The handoff back was unusual, and reportedly not without friction. But on screen, something clicked again. Family debates regained their balance. Ewing men looked a little more like sons, and the ranch felt like home instead of headquarters. The recast, unrecast saga exposed how precarious long-running shows can be. Some roles are replaceable. Matriarchs with moral authority usually aren't. Dallas, never shy about high drama, showed restraint here. It didn't explain the change with twists. It trusted viewers to reattach to the original face of Southfork. 10. Jenna Wade had 3 faces. Continuity in soap logic is a suggestion, not a law. See Jenna Wade, the love from Bobby's past who appeared across the years with 3 different actresses. Each interpretation shifted Jenna's gravity. Sometimes a wistful, what if? Sometimes a real threat to Bobby and Pam. Sometimes a storyline accelerant stirring up old feelings and new conflicts. Viewers learned the grammar of long-running serials. Characters exist as arcs, not just actors. What's fascinating is how Jenna's permutations mirrored Dallas's evolving priorities. Early on, she's about backstory and romantic tension. Later, she becomes a node connecting families, histories, and rivalries. The recasts didn't break immersion because the character functioned more like a myth in the Ewing universe. Part memory, part catalyst. In a world where oil deals and family feuds reset every few weeks, Jenna became a reminder that the past is always negotiable. Dallas taught primetime audiences a daytime soap truth. Identity can be fluid if the emotions are consistent. And with Bobby, they always were. Unfinished business with a perfect smile. 9. Sue Ellen broke primetime taboos. Sue Ellen Ewing began as the elegant, brittle socialite in JR's shadow, but her story detonated expectations. The show put alcoholism, postpartum struggles, identity, and agency on primetime TV with a frankness that cut through the gloss. Watching Sue Ellen stumble, relapse, stand up, and claw back self-respect became one of Dallas's most grounded arcs. A beating heart amid the scheming. It worked because the writers let consequences breathe. Relationships snapped, reputations curdled, choices had prices. And because Linda Gray didn't play Sue Ellen as a plot device, she played her as a person, knotted and complicated. In a decade obsessed with image, Sue Ellen's storyline felt like a crack in the mirror that let real light in. Later prestige dramas would build empires on that tension, beautiful surfaces masking private earthquakes. But Dallas put it on a Friday night, in front of the whole country. The show reminded viewers that a soap can do social realism too, and that villain's wife can become the protagonist of her own battle. 8. Knots Landing was the spin-off, conceived first. The family tree gets twisty here. Knots Landing is Dallas's spin-off, but its concept actually predated Dallas. More grounded, more cul-de-sac drama than cattle barons and skyscrapers. When Dallas hit big, the network finally greenlit Knots, and the two series cross-pollinated. Characters visited, storylines echoed, and audiences followed breadcrumbs between worlds. That interplay legitimized shared TV universes long before superheroes made it standard. Each show had its own flavor. Dallas was champagne and boardrooms. Knots was wine glasses and living rooms. But they shared DNA, romance, betrayal, consequence, and that made crossovers feel like family, not gimmicks. The fact that an earlier, smaller idea found life by hitching to a phenomenon is a lesson in timing. TV isn't just about good concepts. It's about when the world is ready for them. Dallas opened the door for other tones to thrive under the same umbrella, proving that a single breakout hit can seed a whole ecosystem. 7. The theme you can't get out of your head. Jerrold Immel's theme is pure swagger. Brass fanfare, galloping rhythm, and aerial shots that map Dallas like a board game the Ewings already own. That music told you exactly what was coming. Power plays, dressed in tuxedos and pearl chokers. The opening became a weekly mood board. Skyline, oil fields, Southfork, and close-ups that made the cast feel larger than life. Behind the scenes, opening credits are political documents. Billing order, who gets a solo shot, who's also starring. These decisions ripple through contracts and egos. Dallas's credits turned that churn into spectacle. The cartography shots, literal maps, became a visual signature and a subtle flex. This is our territory. Watch us move pieces. It's no coincidence the theme lives rent-free in TV fans' heads. It's not just catchy. It's narrative. The first bars promise a world of high stakes, then deliver them. If a great pilot sells the premise, a great theme sells the feeling. Dallas nailed that sale every single week. 6. Larry Hagman's negotiation, power plays. When your villain becomes America's favorite character, you gain leverage. Larry Hagman understood that better than anyone. As JR, he wasn't just a cast member, he was the engine. During contract talks, Hagman pushed for compensation that reflected reality. No JR, no Dallas. Networks hate being hostage to a star, but they also love record ratings. Guess who won? These negotiations weren't just about money. They established new norms for how serialized TV values its anchor characters. Hagman's standoffs reportedly triggered contingency plans, panic, and finally, capitulation. And on screen, JR only got juicier. The better the show rewarded him, the more audiences wanted to see how he'd wriggle out of consequences. Hagman wielded charm like a weapon and used that same clarity off-screen. Dallas helped usher in an era where the right actor in the right role could command deals that matched the business they brought in. It's not ego if it's true math, and the math on JR was undeniable. 5. the episode that topped the charts. When the whodunit reveal finally aired, the country stopped. People threw viewing parties. Offices emptied early. The payoff rode a knife edge between shock and satisfaction, bold enough to justify the buildup, believable enough to feel earned. Ratings were astronomical. The episode took its place among the most watched hours of scripted television. Beyond bragging rights, it changed Sweep's strategy. Networks learned that cliffhangers weren't just cheap thrills, they were business models. Tease in spring, detonate in fall, rake in ad dollars. Dallas didn't invent suspense, but it showed how to industrialize it. The reveal also cemented how audiences related to JR. He was both the hurricane and the house you couldn't stop rebuilding. If you want to understand why TV seasons are structured the way they are, launch hard, stall tactically, land big, start with this hour. Dallas taught the medium to treat anticipation as currency and made sure everyone knew its exchange rate. 4. Dallas in the Cold War. It's wild to think about a primetime soap as soft power, but Dallas exported an intoxicating vision of American capitalism. Limitless land, gleaming buildings, and family fortunes that rose and fell with a phone call. In countries where the US was an abstraction, the Ewings became a weekly window. Aspirational, messy, seductive. Some critics argued the show was propaganda by accident. Others said it was a cautionary tale wrapped in sequins. Either way, Dallas traveled. It wasn't just the affluence, it was the melodrama. Universal feelings in designer packaging. In an era when America debated its own image abroad, the Ewings did their part, however unintentionally. They made viewers giggle at our excess, gasp at our betrayals, and admit that, yes, power looks good on television. A family saga became a cultural export, and the Friday night soap turned into a global conversation piece. If a sitcom is a portrait of a living room, Dallas was a postcard from a system. 3. The Ewing men nearly looked very different. Casting is destiny, and Dallas came perilously close to a different one. Early versions flirted with alternate takes on Bobby and JR, choices that might have tilted the chemistry away from the lightning in a bottle we got. Imagine a Bobby with less warmth, or a JR with less mischievous bite. The moral geometry of the show would wobble. What we ended up with, the square-jawed romantic hero and the wolf in cufflinks, gave Dallas its central tension. Bobby's earnest decency made viewers invest in long-game payoffs. JR's charm turned every double cross into entertainment rather than outright villainy. This alchemy is why Cliffhangers landed and why the dream reset, astonishingly, worked. You can't fake that balance. You cast it. The almost were versions are a reminder that the tiniest pre-production choices can redirect TV history. Dallas's final lineup wasn't inevitable. It was curated, and once those pieces locked in, the writers could build skyscrapers on that foundation. 2. The Friday night death slot. That lived. Conventional wisdom says Friday nights kill shows. Dallas built a mansion there. Instead of chasing casual channel surfers, it trained loyalists. Families planned around it. Couples poured drinks. Friends turned it into a weekly gathering. Word of mouth spread over the weekend, and by Monday, even holdouts knew what JR had pulled. Dallas proved that timing is only lethal if your content doesn't demand a date. The serialized hook made missing an episode feel risky, which converted viewers into appointment keepers. Advertisers noticed that loyalty and opened their wallets. Networks learned a sly lesson. A so-called weak slot can be a fortress if the show creates its own gravity. The death slot didn't kill Dallas. Dallas resurrected Friday nights. It's the perfect Ewing move. Take what looks like a disadvantage, then squeeze every bit of leverage out of it. If you're bold enough, even the schedule becomes part of your brand. 1. Revival, Farewell, and JR's Last Play. Decades later, The TNT revival returned us to Southfork with fresh eyes and old scars. It wasn't just a nostalgia lap. It had a story to finish, specifically JR's. Larry Hagman's passing could have closed the book abruptly. Instead, the writers crafted JR's masterpiece, a farewell that felt like the character's final, perfectly engineered move. Letters, twists, and one last scheme reframed alliances and set the stage for a new generation to spar under the same big Texas sky. The revival proved Dallas wasn't only a moment in time, it was a storytelling engine. The themes still worked: legacy, power, love, betrayal, because they weren't tied to one decade, just one family. Watching the old guard pass the torch was poignant in a way only long-running TV can be. You weren't just remembering a show, you were saying goodbye to an era, guided, of course, by JR, who somehow managed to win the endgame too. Conclusion: Dallas didn't invent every trick it used, but it popularized them with ruthless efficiency. The cliffhanger as cultural event, the recast as survival tactic, the spin-off as ecosystem, the reset as emergency brake, the theme as branding weapon. It played like Shakespeare and Stetson's: ambition, jealousy, love, and power, and taught TV how to serialize emotion without losing swagger. Maybe that's why the show endures. It wasn't just about oil or money. It was about families who couldn't quit each other, even when they should. We tuned in to watch the Ewings fight over empires, and, somehow, hold one another together anyway. If you want more deep dives into the strange, bold choices that built classic television, hit like, tap subscribe, and drop the next show you want us to unpack in the comments. Until then, keep your hat on straight and your contracts tighter than JR's alibi.